a gentleman who does the color for the Rams radio broadcast. This was not done on purpose. We're just glad to have Daniel Jeremiah. Now you, Maurice Jones-Drew. Good to see you, man.
Well, I appreciate it. The fight for L.A. Everyone's in it.
Well, it is, and I assume that's the LA football you'd like to talk about right now.
I'd normally probably plead the fifth, but I'm willing to take my lumps when I have to. So if we want to talk Bruin football, I'm willing to do that as well.
No, well, I mean, here's what we'll do is we'll just say in hour number one we went over the schedule because Daniel said he thinks it could be a one-win Bruins team, which is nuts when you think about it. But
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we can probably catch Colorado. We're down right now. They may take us a little lightly. We're getting some players back from suspension, so we may have a chance there. But we always beat Cal. I mean, that's the reason I went to UCLA, because we always beat Cal. That's one of those things that happens.
You're Mr. Northern California.
Yeah, so it's one of those. And then Arizona's struggling right now, and Arizona State. So I know Herm's doing a great job down there, and they're recruiting really well. But I think after a couple games, these young freshmen that are playing will be a little bit more seasoned late in the year. And then it's always a great game when you play USC. Both of us are down right now. Both have freshman quarterbacks playing, so you'll see some mistakes. But I think we have a chance of getting them as well.
You believe in Chip?
As of now, I mean, I have no choice. But coming in, I was very excited about Chip. I thought he was going to come in and do some things. I just didn't know that all these players weren't going to play right away. I mean, they have a talented team. He had to come in and change his culture, and I understand that. And I respect that. So I'm going to give him a chance.
Okay.
I think we all fans should give Chip a chance because he's trying to change a culture there that he feels needs to be changed.
All right, now let's talk about the team that you call action for, the Los Angeles. I picked them to win the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
They are really terrific. I think they are the best team, top to bottom, soup nuts, coaching staff, roster in the National Football League. What have you seen? Anything else on tape? Anything else that I don't know about this team, or is it just as advertised what we see on the field right there?
I think the one thing you can say, and I was talking with Daniel backstage. Everyone is selfless. They're going to do their job. And I think when you have so many alpha males or, people called dogs or personalities per se, like Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley, guys with these Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, they've all bought into what Coach McVay wants to do. And that's real important for this team because it could go down. It can go south real quick if not everyone bought in. Obviously, with the Aaron Donald holdout, the way they handled that situation was amazing. To have Ndamukong Suh be able to take the back seat and play a tougher position than what he's normally used to. Then you have receivers downfield blocking linebackers in the hole, and Todd. And I mean, so they're doing a good job. And what Coach McVay has done is everyone touches the ball. It's a very simple thing. You don't know who's going to get it, but there's plays designed for everybody to touch the ball. Jared Goff does a great job of spreading the ball around. And defensively, you have to get the ball out quick or you'll get touched. And the corners are smart enough to understand that, and they play a certain way.
What do they need to improve on? What are they not as good at right now that you think by week 8, 10, 12, 15 they could be much better at, Maurice?
It has to be depth, right? So when you spend the type of money the Rams have spent, they don't have the same depth like year 5, 6, 7 guys. You have backups that are year 1, 2. So those guys have to get a little bit more experience because throughout the course of the season, guys are going to get hurt. You're going to need guys to step in and be able to make an impact either on defense, offense, or special teams. So it's not necessarily the talent that they have to improve on or just a specific area in the game. It's more of just making sure you have a ton of experience with the younger players that are coming in making plays.
Well, obviously, wins it could be the answer here because the win is the greatest deodorant in the NFL, and it's also it is the great binder of teams. But why has it worked so well for Sean McVay so quickly here in LA, do you think?
He can relate to his players. Yeah, granted, you have a coach that's 31. You have players who are older than him on the team. But he can relate to those players in certain situations where maybe an older coach wouldn't be able to relate to.
How so?
Social media, for example. It's not as if
Twitter binds this team because he understands that
he understands the Twitterverse. I think, and not just the way the kids think, right? I coach a youth football team up north, right? And it's funny because my son's on it, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to these kids and what's going on. And my wife is like, well, listen, they all play Fortnite, which I play video games, but I don't play Fortnite. So she's like, you got to relate to those kids a certain way. So we play for V-Bucks, which is a way you can, use money and different things.
So wait, Maurice Jones-Drew, you're telling me that your youth football team is more cohesive because your wife said learn Fortnite.
That's right. So I can relate to them. And I think Coach McVay has done that the same thing with his team, as well as Wade Phillips. And let's just be honest, Wade Phillips is probably the greatest human being on the planet right now. A guy who's on Twitter, he says he loves donuts, all these different things.
Son of bum.
So, yeah, right. He does a great job. And what they do is they don't make their scheme. They don't make the player fit their scheme. They make their scheme fit the player. So, for example, Marcus Peters is not a real press man guy. He's an off man. He likes to read the quarterback. Well, Coach Wade Phillips says, okay, this is what we'll do. You don't have to play press as much. We'll play you off. We'll switch our system so it fits you a little bit more. The same with Coach McVay and his offense. Some guys do better things than others, so we'll make sure you're doing those good things all the time.
Maurice Jones-Drew here on the Rich Eisen Show. And a week from today, you'll be coming off your broadcast, as well as Fox coming off of their television broadcast of the Week 4 kickoff between the Rams and the Vikings in the stadium where the Chargers will play the Rams this weekend. Are the Vikings a team that is built to give the Rams the most trouble in the NFC? Like, which team do you think is built to give the Rams the most trouble?
The Vikings definitely are one with the addition of Kirk Cousins. I mean, last year the Rams went up there and that defense was no joke, and so they know that going forward.
But the Rams were still growing in the first year of McVay. Is that one way you could put it, or they were already the team that they are today?
I feel like they were the team that they are today. I mean, granted they have some different pieces, but offensively that they went down and scored on the first series, and then after that there was nothing there. So that's a team that it's strength against strength, where that defense is going to step in and make some plays. I just think now they're a better defensive team than they were that year. So their defense is going to allow them some room to, where they don't have to score every time. They don't have to score 30 points. They can go out there and maybe score 28, 21, maybe have a bad couple series, maybe a bad first half like we saw in Oakland, and then that defense allows that offense to bounce back. But you still have Philly, who's really good, and they're banged up right now, but they'll get healthy, as well as the Packers. I mean, let's just be honest. When 12's on the field,
it's different. I got one for you. How about the Jaguars? How about the team in Jacksonville?
Yes.
Built the way they are defensively, built the way they are offensively to possess the ball, and if Bortles plays the way that he did against the Patriots, that might be a Super Bowl team right there.
So I don't know if you my Super Bowl predictions are Jags, Rams, and it's for selfish reasons because I get a ring either way, right? So I'll finally get one when that happens. I'll finally get one. But what Jacksonville has done, and I've obviously covering them and going to their training camp, that defense is amazing, and they find ways to do whatever they want defensively, to play the Giants and contain Odell Beckham. Granted, they didn't stop him at 100 yards, but then to come back and go against Gronk and literally shut Gronk down and get to Tom the way they want to. Then I felt like forcing the Patriots to find a receiver after that point and making them go and trade for Josh Gordon shows that the Jags are doing something right. Offensively, Blake Bortles, there was a comment from Jalen Ramsey. He had a lot of comments this offseason, but I think the best comment he had was last year Blake didn't try the DBs deep. He didn't do that. He stayed away from them in practice. This offseason, throughout OTAs and throughout training camp, he tested them. And they made plays as a defense, but he also made plays in offense to help build his confidence because he goes, I'm not going against Jalen Ramsey every week. So you're seeing those go balls that they were throwing and those receivers are going up and getting because they do that in practice every day against arguably the top secondary in the league.
Do you think Josh Gordon's going to work out in New England?
Yeah, I think it will.
If he's a viable player. I mean, we don't know what's going on off the field with him. If he's, we're assuming if New England hired him, that whatever's gone on off the field is something that they feel they can either deal with, handle, or not. Yeah,
well, I think there's certain players there. Every player is different, and so you have certain rules for certain guys. Guys like Josh Gordon. If I'm an owner or if I'm a team, I'm going to make sure I put someone around him 24/7. And we're going to make sure we have a guy pick him up from home, take him home after practice. Make sure that you because, again, his talent and his abilities kind of warrant that, right? So it's like, okay, we know he can play on the field. We just have to make sure we take care of him off the field. So you have to use the resources of the community. Make sure you have people watching him and helping him when he needs different things. Don't allow him to have idle time. And we all know the saying is idle time and all that stuff. So I think that he has the abilities, and I know Bill Belichick would do a great job with him. And Tom now has his deep threat. I mean, that guy is the size of a linebacker running 4-3 down the field and playing on DBs. I mean, it's going to be a tough guy to stop regardless.
So you got Jacksonville, you've got New England, you've got in the West, the way the Chiefs have looked, obviously,
Saints.
yeah.
You got the Saints.
You've got some teams that are going to be, one would think, progressing moving forward. Then you got the Steelers, who are 0-1-1.
Yeah.
Now, look, this is the first time I think in the regular season where we're not even in the media even expecting to see Le'Veon Bell, or we're keeping our eyes peeled or our ears to the ground here. That he's not coming in through that door. But the way that you're smiling, you share an agent. Do you know something?
We do share an agent, and I've spoken to him. I spoken to him a couple weeks ago.
Le'Veon.
Le'Veon, yeah.
Okay.
Again, this is, I wrote an article about it, and we talked about it on game day morning. But, this is the NFL has to understand that, you can't place everyone in. You can't put square pegs in a round hole. You can't do that. You can't just say he's a running back, so he has to pay this much when he has been, 50% of your offense or 40% of your offense and has been a dual threat for you. Le'Veon's a very smart businessman, and a lot of people may not see that, but he understands his worth, and he had to weigh his options with, do I go out here and I get 30 carries in week 1, 30 carries in week 2, 30 carries in week 3, and then possibly be worn down and not be able to get my maximize my potential in free agency? Or do I sit out with the franchise tag by not signing it, not getting fined? Yes, he's losing money each week, but I think he weighed those options, and so we'll wait to see when he comes in. But now we see that Le'Veon's a bigger part to this Pittsburgh Steelers team than a lot of people thought.
Well, I mean, the answer is as well, though, he doesn't play defense, and the defense has been horrible. But the difference between him and James Conner is James Conner's not lining up in the slot, creating all sorts of matchup problems on Sunday or Monday or whenever they play, and keeping defensive coordinators up with that prospect all week long. That is without question his differentiator, his fingerprint as to why he's as great as he is. The question, though, I have for you as well is that, your mutual agent, when the whole long-term agreement fell apart on the July 15th deadline, said that Le'Veon was still going to come in. He did say that let's put it this way. He intimated it would be the same thing. They'd run it back from last year, that he'd be there from Jump Street. On barring something extraordinary. So something extraordinary happened. Was it the Gurley contract?
I think it was. I think it was the Todd Gurley contract. I think it then was after that the players speaking out. I think it then was after that saying David Johnson's contract. And, the difference in guarantee. So for all our listeners and people that are watching, as a running back, you don't look at the total number. So it may be $80 million. Sure. As a running back, you don't see, majority of the time running backs don't see that. I think Adrian Peterson signed a $100 million deal and didn't see all of it. He only got 3 years of that. So you focus on the guarantee because our position is so brutal. It's so tough. You get hit every play. The Steelers are offering Le'Veon $19 million guaranteed. I don't think that's a real good number when you see David Johnson sign a 3, and they were signing a 4 or 5 year deal with that, where David Johnson signed a 3-year deal for 30, and then Todd signs a $45 million deal. Like, that becomes what we call disrespect?
Sure, absolutely. But to start torching up $850,000 checks each week, and that's money you could say now hold on a second. I know what your response is going to be. Money he's never going to get back, but if he does keep the tread off the tires, he would be able to last longer into a deal and see more of that back end money that people like Adrian Peterson did not see. But that's not a guarantee either.
It's really not. But he had to weigh these options, right? And so obviously he chose to sit out and wait. It's funny because when you say it, I have buddies that come like, man, I can't believe he's giving up 800, and it's a crazy number to think about.
It is a crazy number.
But the numbers in the NFL are so crazy. Like, even now, I'm like, dude, like, he's making that number is like twice as much as I was making when I was playing, or more than that. Way more than twice. But that's just the way the league's going. He deserves more than that, though, and I think he understands that. He's earned more than that. He's done the things necessary to do that. People are going to talk about some mistakes that he made as a younger kid. Well, there's other players in this league that have made mistakes as well, and they still gotten paid. And so, again, this is I want people to understand, like, this is literally business at its finest. The NFL is a $11 billion business, and you have players who are businessmen, you have owners who are businessmen. You have to respect both sides. And I think over the last couple of weeks, you're starting to see that kind of weigh out a little bit, where people are like, okay, now I understand why he's doing this. Because you see week one, right out, they come in, they give James Conner 37 touches.
That's the tread on the tire that he wants to avoid. I understand. But it's also tough to, like, people are seeing Le'Veon Bell and not thinking NBA, they're seeing TMZ. It's an interesting way that he's spending his time away from the team.
He's a music artist as well, and he has other things. He's doing other things as well. He's still training and staying in great shape.
He looks great. Oh, so week 11 is that when we're going to see him? I know you don't speak for him. I know you don't speak for him.
I wrote an article saying I wouldn't show up till week 11. If I could do my holdout all over again, I wouldn't have shown up to week 11. That's me seeing the obviously after I did it. I don't know when he's going to come back. I really don't, and I've tried to pry it out of my agent. He won't spill the beans.
But he has to show up.
But he will show up. Yeah, he'll show up.
I mean, at some point for the business part of this to get where he wants to go for complete freedom, he will be playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
By week 11 for sure. He has to show up by then to be in order to be a free agent for next year. And to go back to Pittsburgh, I know we talk about their defense, and yes, they need to make some plays. Ryan Shazier's injury is a huge part to that. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like they just got a lot going on right now in that locker room. And I know Antonio Brown really well, and he hates to lose, just like a lot of players, like Odell Beckham hates to lose, and a lot of players that dislike losing. They just got to find a way to get a victory and kind of get this thing back going because they're still a really good team. I mean, I saw them in training camp. They're flying around offensively. Defensively, they just got to hold some guys. You can't – the Chiefs are – no one thought the Chiefs were going to do what the Chiefs are doing.
It's so exciting, though. They're so exciting. This kid is so exciting at the trigger. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, he is dynamic. Kelsey, Hunt, and let's not forget
Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins had a very nice day in Pittsburgh as well. That's just so much fun. Ask the poll question of Maurice Jones-Drew before we leave, before he takes off.
All right.
We set him the NFL Total Access tonight.
MJD, looking at 2-0 teams.
Yeah.
Which is the most fugazi? Bengals, Broncos, Bucks, Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins.
Why?
I'm just not a believer in Ryan Tannehill. I just haven't been. He starts off well, but towards the middle of the season, he kind of tends to go down a little bit. The last time they went to the playoffs, Matt Moore was the quarterback that won some games late in the year to help him get there. And so I just have to see more of Ryan Tannehill. I haven't seen enough of him, and I know he's been in the league like 6 years, but we haven't seen enough consistent play from him to warrant that they are a team that's going to be in the runnings late in the year.
And you mentioned Saints. I mean, is that a team you like? You like them too? You think they'll be fine when it's all said and done? Yeah,
I think once Ingram comes back, they can get their running game going. Kamara doesn't have as much on his plate, and then he can kind of focus on his certain package and plays. Okay. Defensively, they have to figure it out defensively. I thought they did it a little bit against the Browns, but you can't give up that bomb on 4th and 5 to Callaway. You can't do that at all. So they got some issues that they have to work out, but it's funny. Sean Payton doesn't hold anything back, and offensive, they'll be fine.
And that Callaway, man. I mean, he's a weapon for Baker Mayfield. Before you go, I would give you the floor on what you saw last night from him.
So, what I saw, first of all, I'm a big Tyrod Taylor fan, right? So it was sad to see him go out the way he went out. But Baker Mayfield showed great poise in the pocket. I love the way that Todd Haley adjusted his game plan for him. A lot of coaches aren't willing to do that. They try to force their game plan on you, but
how did he adjust it for him?
They started giving him a little bit more RPOs, the run pass option. They were in shotgun, a little more tempo. He came in 2-minute drill where he's comfortable at what he ran in college. And then he was making throws, and I thought after the first couple of plays of 2-minute drill, he got real comfortable throwing the ball in between the hashes and throwing strikes in between the hashes and making throws and giving his guys opportunities. And then his guys were making plays for him. So he came in with a lot of confidence, came in with a system that's geared a little bit more towards him, where I don't think Tyrod was running RPOs. He's more running a more pro-style offense. But it works for him, and that's the key. As a coach, you have to do what is best for your player. And to see Todd Haley go away from what he did in Pittsburgh, what he did in Arizona, what he did in Kansas City, to more of a college-style offense where they were running a lot of shotgun runs, getting the ball out on the perimeter, quick drops, things like that, helping him just get adjusted. I thought he did really well. And so I think they'll keep improving off that as the season goes on. And listen, they won a game, and he's the reason they won it. So,
do you think they'd be 3-0 if he started the season?
I think they would be 3-0 if their kicker could make a field goal.
Do you think that the Steelers would be 3-0 if Le'Veon Bell was active and on the team and paid and happy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be a different game if Le'Veon was on the field and everyone was happy.
Because this again, the answer in Pittsburgh that people say is he doesn't play defense. Mahomes still would have carved him up.
They didn't play defense last year, and they went 13-3. Right? I mean, their defense was okay. Shazier did some good things, but they still were able to make runs. The locker room, this is something for everyone to understand too. Football is played in the locker room. It's not the coaches can call whatever play you want, but if the players in the locker room are comfortable with it and they execute it, and it's not a, I don't want to call it, if their locker room is tight and cohesive and they know what they're doing, they're fine. Right now, you have a lot of stuff going on in that Pittsburgh locker room. You have a lot of people with different opinions about different things that are very vocal, and they have to fix that first. And I think that was one thing that I learned in Jacksonville is that how important that locker room is, because if we're all on the same page, you're going to win games. And you see this team, how they black up Blake Bortles when people talk trash about him. You see how they're able to respond when Leonard Fournette goes out. I think if you look at the Rams locker room the same way, you don't hear a lot of nonsense coming out of their locker room. You don't hear a lot of anything coming out of that locker room but positive stuff about what they have to do to play the next game or how they feel about their teammates. The locker room is really important, so you have to fix that first before it starts to translate on the field.
Well, I don't know what number's greater, number of controversies in the Steelers locker room or number of different Twitter handles that Maurice Jones-Drew has had since joining Twitter. You're now at MJD.
Yeah, very simple now.
You used to be at Jones-Drew32. There used to be tons of underscores in odd places. Yeah. Now you're just flat out at MJD. I had
to go to a higher place.
Well, maybe McVay's got that straightened out since he's such a great Twitter guy, and now that you've got your finger on the pulse of your youth football team,
we're just trying to win the next game.
You're a millennial, Maurice Jones-Drew. What can I tell you? Enjoy the weekend calling the Rams games. You do a great job of it. I hear you driving around town. And we'll see you on NFL Total Access tonight at 7 Eastern.
Yes.
Maurice Jones-Drew right here on the Rich Eisen Show. When we come back, sneaky good games in my unlockiest lock of the week. We'll sneak in some more phone calls at 844-204-RICH. By the way, my unlockiest lock of the week, I'm 1-0-1. I got one right. I said the Browns were going to beat the Steelers in week 1.
That should be a victory, though. They didn't lose.
I'll take that. But I guess the metric is if they're not drinking beer for free, they're in Cleveland. It's not a win. Now we all know that. Maurice Jones-Drew here on the show. We're back with you in a moment.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.